Should you buy a 2018 MacBook Pro here in 2019? Well, let's talk about it. So you've got a couple grand or more burning a hole in your bank account, and you've got your eyes on a sleek, sexy new 2018 MacBook Pro. Perhaps even a MacBook Air or a 12-inch MacBook for that matter. Well, here in early 2019, we are only months away from Apple's typically annual new product keynote, in which they reveal new designs and new updates, if any, to their MacBook Pro, MacBook Air, and MacBook product lines. So if you're like me, the question then becomes, should I go ahead and purchase the current MacBook Pro or wait until the launch of the 2019 MacBook Pro? First, allow me to frame this conversation a little bit. I, perhaps like some watching, don't even own a MacBook Pro. I don't own a MacBook Air, I don't own a 12-inch MacBook, or any Mac computer for that matter.
What's a computer?
I do own an iPad, but I'm heavily invested in the Windows ecosystem. What has kept me and many others from jumping from our Windows laptops to a MacBook Pro isn't just being too deep in the Windows ecosystem. It's the fact that we just can't justify the severe lack of value inherent to the MacBook Pro versus spending the same amount of money on a PC. For instance, $2,000 is just about average for a MacBook Pro. 13-inch MacBook Pros start just under $2,000, while 15-inch MacBook Pros start above $2,000. All the way up to almost $7,000 before tax. But let's focus on that $2,000 figure. I promise this will all make sense to whether or not you should purchase a 2018 MacBook Pro right now. Typically, a $2,000 MacBook Pro will be severely, some might argue unforgivably, less powerful than an equally priced Windows laptop. This is the so-called Apple tax. It's the price you pay for sleek design, and some might say vanity. Now, don't get me wrong, the 2018 MacBook Pro is undeniably sexy, but at what cost? The Intel Core i9 version of the 2018 MacBook Pro 15 was so sexy that it quite literally couldn't handle its own hotness. Now, Apple did release a firmware patch that mitigated the issue, but the Core i9 in the 2018 15-inch MacBook Pro still struggles to maintain the advertised frequency boost under load, or even base clock for that matter. I mean, it maintains base clock, but it is sizzling at the upper limits of the chip's thermal tolerance. Now, to bring it back from that brief technical information, all that is to say that anyone shelling out upwards of $7,000 for a 2018 MacBook Pro 15-inch did not get anywhere near the type of performance that kind of money should have returned, regardless of the infamous Apple tax. The Core i7 version was actually a much better buy in a 2018 MacBook Pro. The i7 isn't as power hungry as the Core i9. The i7 doesn't put out as much heat, and therefore could actually stay at a higher frequency for a longer amount of time. I know it sounds counterintuitive, but the less powerful chip in the 2018 15-inch MacBook Pro's case is a better value for money. Again, this all plays critically into whether or not you should buy a 2018 MacBook Pro or wait for a 2019 MacBook Pro announcement, if any. And hint, hint, I think there will be. So here's where it gets fascinating. Here's why my wallet is warming up to the idea of buying a 2019 MacBook Pro. For all the criticism that Apple received for the 2018 MacBook Pro 15-inch, much of it can be attributed to Intel. Apple, I believe, was an unfortunate victim of Intel's struggle to get the 10-nanometer process up and running in time. In other words, Apple designed their current MacBook Pro chassis back in 2016 on Intel's promises and intentions to roll out 10-nanometer process chips. Now, for all intents and purposes of this conversation, that has not happened. So while Apple jumped the gun and designed for the more efficient, more powerful, cooler running 10 nanometer Intel CPUs, the 10 nanometer Intel chips they bet on are not here yet. This forces Apple's hand, and is exactly and precisely why you should wait till this summer 2019 to make a MacBook Pro purchasing decision. If Apple knows what's good for them, they will have at the very least redesigned the cooling system for any 2019 MacBook Pro. All across the board, from the 13-inch MacBook Pro all the way up to the rumored 16-inch MacBook Pro. Apple has to innovate and redesign crucial components this year in 2019, or get left behind. They cannot botch another release after last year's Throttlegate disaster. And even besides Throttlegate, the competition has moved forward with 9th generation Intel chips and dedicated graphics. And more on graphics in a moment. With the iPhone's sluggish sales, Apple needs some winners in 2019. Apple needs MacBooks to sell this year. If anything, to please investors, further forcing their hand to announce top-notch MacBook Pros in 2019. So, while 2018 was the year Apple got bit in the butt, 2019 may be the year Apple keeps the doctor away. So, in my opinion, here's what to look for if Apple releases new MacBook Pros in 2019, which, by all accounts, looks like they will if they know what's good for them. For the 13-inch MacBook Pro, I'd look for dedicated graphics of some variant. The NVIDIA MX150 has made its way into every nook and cranny of Apple's competition in the thin and light segment. And there's quite literally no excuse why Apple wouldn't add a low-power AMD GPU to the 13-inch MacBook Pro in 2019. If, like I suspect, they're forced to update their cooling solutions anyways, it would make no sense for them not to add dedicated graphics to the 13-inch 2019 MacBook Pro, at least as a selectable option. Matter of fact, if Apple does add a discrete GPU to the 2019 13-inch MacBook Pro, I will hand them my money. Now, not even to mention the boost in gaming performance, I plan on dual booting Windows, the boost a dedicated graphics chip would make to productivity and content creation would make the 2019 13-inch MacBook Pro, dare I say it, a pro device. I can't drop this mic, it's attached to a... Alright. So that's what I'm mostly looking for in the 2019 13-inch MacBook Pro. At least a selectable option to add dedicated graphics. Now, for the 15-inch 2019 MacBook Pro, goes without saying that I'm looking for a radical redesign of their current cooling solution. Up to and including perhaps adding a millimeter, maybe a gram or two, to the overall height and weight of the 2019 15-inch MacBook Pro. And you know what? I'm just gonna say it. Tons of us would welcome the insignificant increases if it means our computer runs faster and cooler for longer. That is, I'll take a millimeter to gain a kilometer. That is, tons of customers won't care or even notice such minuscule increases, but will greatly appreciate getting the performance they're advertised and paying for. With the current 2018 MacBook Pro 15-inch, the only time you'll see your processor hitting 4.8 advertised gigahertz is opening an email. So Apple has to step up the MacBook Pro 15-inch this year to stay relevant. And I think they will. I hope they will. Okay, so as far as the rumored 16-inch MacBook Pro, I don't actually have much to say other than it gives me hope for at least the 13-inch and the 15-inch MacBook Pros. It gives me hope that they'll get the much-needed attention I just mentioned. There is no way Apple has the gonads to botch the release of an even bigger 16-inch MacBook Pro with subpar cooling capacity. So if they're working on a brand new MacBook Pro, there's no way the other models wouldn't be getting an overhaul, right? As far as the MacBook Air, I don't see anything radical happening here. I think the dual-core processors do just fine for the niche they're designed for. Now, that being said, It is 2019, and a quad-core chip in the 2019 MacBook Air would of course be welcome. However, if we're honest, historically, Apple has been just fine charging top dollar for yesteryear's technology in MacBook Airs and MacBooks. Speaking of the 12-inch MacBook, if they do anything radical beyond a very minor CPU upgrade, this could be the year they ditch Intel entirely and roll out a Bionic chip-powered 2019 MacBook. They've demonstrated the power of the Bionic chip in the latest iPad Pro, so it would make complete and welcome sense to plop a Bionic chip in the all-but-forgotten 12-inch MacBook. It is rather well known that Apple is moving towards a unified Mac ecosystem relying on their own in-house silicon. Silicon? Relying on their own in-house silicon by the early 2020s. This is yet another reason I think 2019 is the year Apple changes the game. So, to summarize, should you buy a new 2018 MacBook Pro in 2019? No. Absolutely not. Unless it is critically required for your job or school. That is to say, you don't have a choice. If you already have a MacBook Pro that's only a few years old, you will be just fine to wait and see what Apple has in store for 2019. If you're an on-the-fence Windows PC user like me, and I know you're out there, the amount of pressure Apple is under to innovate, both fiscally and otherwise, may mean that 2019 is the breakout year for Apple we've been waiting for. It may sway many of us
to the dark side.
I mean, I'm still gonna add Windows to Boot Camp, but you see what I'm saying. So, Mac and Windows users, save your money until this summer regardless. There is mounting evidence that Apple is going to make major strides this year. 2019 MacBook Pros could very well be game changers. So, thanks for watching, everyone. Please be good to each other, including yourself. We have so much more in common than any difference in politics. We are all geeks about something. Let's share our hobbies and passions with each other. Let's embrace our geek thing and share it with our neighbor. If you like this video and the message of my channel in general, I know it sounds corny, but it would mean the world to me if you even considered subscribing. I'm in the hunt for 1,000 subscribers here in 2019, so if you'd like to be a part of it, that'd be awesome. I fully understand and appreciate that you don't have to. I'll leave a thumbnail here for my channel trailer to get you caught up to speed on what Geek Therapy Radio is all about. And, of course, don't hesitate to comment below. Do you think Apple has something up their sleeves this year? Or do you think Apple will disappoint this summer? Let's talk about it below, and take care, everybody.